Amidst the rustling leaves and the gentle lapping of the river against the shore, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark find themselves momentarily halted by an unfavorable wind, a lingering remnant of the tempest that had roared through the night. It is in this pause that they encounter a lone Frenchman, his boat heavily laden with furs and tales from the distant Osage people. The Frenchman, weary from his journey, brings tidings of a letter sent to the Osage purportedly from the American government announcing the sale of their ancestral lands to the United States. However, the Osage, a proud and skeptical people, view this news with suspicion, choosing instead to burn the letter, a symbolic rejection of foreign interference in their affairs. Instead, they continue their trade with French and European traders, exchanging valuable pelts for much-needed goods including metal items, horses, and firearms, which have become integral to their way of life. Within the sprawling expanse of Osage territory, ancient rivalries and shifting alliances paint a complex tapestry of tribal relations. Along the western fringes, the feared Comanche, their reputation as skilled horsemen and fierce warriors preceding them, lay waste to Osage villages under the cloak of darkness. It is here, amidst the rugged landscapes and dense forests, that chiefs like the towering Black Dog emerge as stalwart defenders of Osage sovereignty, their leadership commanding respect and admiration from their people. Meanwhile, in the distant quarters of power in Washington, D.C., President Thomas Jefferson recognizes the strategic importance of maintaining peaceful relations with the Osage. In a gesture of diplomacy, he extends a formal invitation to Osage leaders, urging them to visit the nation's capital. Jefferson's message emphasizes the need for peaceful coexistence and trade between the United States and the Osage, acknowledging the Osage as a formidable force in the region whose friendship is invaluable. The Osage, with their rich cultural heritage and deep spiritual connection to the land, trace their origins to ancient migrations and a sacred bond with the waters that sustain them. As they navigate the complexities of changing times, they remain steadfast in their traditions, offering prayers to Wakanta, the cosmic life force, for harmony and protection. Yet, amidst the tranquility of their homeland, the Osage face mounting threats from encroaching Euro-American settlers and displaced indigenous groups, drawn by the promise of fertile lands and abundant resources. Amidst the vast expanse of Osage territory, tall and redoubtable warriors stand as guardians, their watchful eyes scanning the horizon for intruders who dare to encroach upon their ancestral lands. In times of dire need, they do not hesitate to take up arms, confronting and, when necessary, dispatching those who threaten their way of life. In the year 1808, Meriwether Lewis, now serving as governor of Louisiana, resolves to assert control over the Osage people. With calculated cunning, he implements a strategy aimed at subduing their resistance, blocking vital trade networks and inciting local indigenous groups to launch attacks against the Osage. William Clark, his trusted companion from the famed expedition, follows suit, exerting pressure on several Osage chiefs to sign a treaty relinquishing the eastern half of their domain, a staggering expanse of 50 million acres, to the United States. However, the terms of the treaty are shrouded in ambiguity, with some Osage chiefs believing they had merely agreed to share this land as hunting territory, not realizing the extent of the concession they had made. Traditionally, decisions among the Osage are reached through consensus, ensuring that no individual or group can unilaterally speak for the entire nation. Despite this, the U.S. government seizes upon the opportunity to claim the land, eager to accommodate the influx of displaced indigenous peoples from the east. An Osage chief named Claremore eloquently articulates the desperation that drives his people to conflict, emphasizing their fundamental need for sustenance and resources to survive. When the Cherokee are granted land on Osage territory by the U.S. government, tensions inevitably escalate, leading to raids and skirmishes as the Osage defend their livelihood against encroachment. In 1817, Chief Claremore and his band venture out onto the plains in search of game, leaving behind the vulnerable members of their village. In their absence, a devastating attack orchestrated by the Cherokee and their allies descends upon the unsuspecting village, leaving death and destruction in its wake. Yet, amidst the chaos, Chief Claremore demonstrates cunning foresight, leading his band to safety in a concealed cave as their homes are pillaged and razed. As the relentless tide of displacement and conflict continues to sweep across Osage territory, the once mighty nation finds itself increasingly marginalized and deprived of sovereignty. Forced to cede vast swathes of their domain in exchange for meager government payments, the Osage are relegated to a narrow strip of land, their proud heritage overshadowed by the relentless march of progress and conquest. In the year 1833, tensions between the Osage and the Kiowa reached a boiling point when rumors surfaced that the Kiowa may have encroached upon Osage territory for hunting. In response, a formidable war party of Osage warriors, their faces adorned with black paint as a grim warning of their intent, embarks on a mission of retribution. They descend upon a Kiowa camp, where they find only the elderly, women, and children. In a brutal act of vengeance, they seize 2 children as prisoners and mercilessly slay the rest, leaving their severed heads displayed in brass pots as a grim message to their kin. The Kiowa, along with their Comanche allies, vow swift retaliation for this heinous act. However, before the conflict can escalate further, the intervention of the U.S. government forestalls further bloodshed. The Americans, motivated by their desire to stabilize the region and expedite the removal of native peoples to make way for cotton production using slave labor, broker a fragile peace between the warring factions. In the broader context of American expansionism, the forced relocation of indigenous peoples to designated Indian territory becomes a grim reality. In 1838, over 15,000 Cherokee are driven from their homes in a brutal forced march known as the Trail of Tears, with over a quarter of them perishing along the arduous journey. Meanwhile, those Osage who resist relocation face brutal repression, beaten and forcibly removed from their ancestral lands. Yet, amidst the backdrop of wartime violence and forced displacement, the true character of the Osage people emerges. Despite the wartime actions of certain bands of Osage warriors being used to vilify their entire nation, first-hand observers attest to the affable and hospitable nature of the Osage people. Their intrinsic desire for friendship and harmony with others is deeply ingrained in their cultural ethos, as they extend hospitality even to strangers in need. As the tide of history turns and the nation is engulfed in the turmoil of the Civil War, the Osage strive to maintain their neutrality. However, when confronted with aggression from Confederate forces, they respond with their customary defiance, defending their land and way of life with steadfast resolve. Even in the aftermath of the conflict, as American settlers encroach further upon Osage territory, the spirit of resistance and determination remains undimmed. Through the trials and tribulations of history, the Osage endure, clinging fiercely to their identity and freedom. Despite the encroachment of modernity and the changing landscape of their homeland, they remain steadfast in their commitment to preserve their heritage and live as free people, as their ancestors did before them. In the verdant springtime of the old Osage River bottoms, where once abundant crops flourished, now lie fallow fields, barren and neglected. The vibrant pulse of life that once thrived in the summer plains has stilled, the thundering hoofs of bison reduced to a distant echo, a haunting memory of a bygone era. Meanwhile, the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., churn with legislative machinations, as the U.S. government passes sweeping laws mandating the allotment of reservation lands to individual tribal members and selling off the remaining parcels to eager American settlers. However, amidst this tumultuous landscape of change and upheaval, one group stands apart, the Osage people. Through astute negotiation and steadfast determination, they have managed to secure exemptions from the land allotment policies, preserving their reservation lands in communal ownership. Key figures like the Venerable Black Dog II through the Council's deliberations have ensured that the Osage retain their ancestral connection to the land, safeguarding their cultural heritage for future generations. Yet, it is beneath the surface of the Osage Reservation, hidden in the depths of the earth, where their greatest treasure lies undiscovered. As women scour the country in search of black gold, they inevitably turn their gaze to the Osage Reservation, where vast reserves of oil lie dormant beneath the soil. In a stroke of fortune, the Osage find themselves the beneficiaries of immense wealth as they negotiate lucrative lease rights and royalties with the oil companies, propelling them into an era of unprecedented prosperity. However, this newfound wealth also attracts a darker element as unscrupulous outsiders seek to exploit and manipulate the Osage for their own gain. In a series of heinous crimes that shock the nation, Osage individuals are targeted and murdered, their deaths shrouded in a web of deceit and betrayal. Yet, the Osage refused to be cowed by fear as they embark on a relentless quest for justice, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the legal system and federal bureaucracy. Their journey is fraught with peril and uncertainty as they confront systemic racism and deep-seated prejudices at every turn. Yet, guided by the indomitable spirit of their ancestors, the Osage press on, their determination unyielding, their resolve unshakable. For them, the struggle for survival is not merely a battle against external forces, but a fight to preserve their very identity as a people, to reclaim their rightful place in the annals of history. As the Osage confront the specter of stress, anxiety, and despair that threatens to engulf them, they draw strength from their communal bonds, their shared history, and their unbreakable spirit. In the face of adversity, they find solace in each other's company in the enduring legacy of resilience and perseverance that defines their people. And though the road ahead may be fraught with challenges, the Osage remain undaunted, their hearts set on a brighter future where justice, dignity, and equality reign supreme.